Well, hello, friends and followers. Welcome back to TJ's Modeling Bench, and welcome to some of my new subscribers. Thank you all. I am this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, so just a few more. Anyway, I'm in the last week before the final of the USAC Camaro build, so I'm not going to show you that. We'll show that on the 15th, which is Sunday. That'll be the final reveal. But in the meantime, I'm also working on the cord, the Pyro Models cord, 1937 cord Phaeton, 812, I believe. Anyway, it's a bit of a struggle, and I'll show you what I'm working on right now. So let me move the camera, and we'll go to it. The fit of a lot of the parts on this Pyro kit are not fantastic. I've got large gaps that I'm going to need to fill, and I'll fill the largest of them with styrene, and then we'll putty over what else there is to cover. I cut off the door handles on both sides. Those will get replaced with some 3D printed door handles that match the same style, but they'll actually stand a little more proud of the panel itself instead of just being a blob. And then you can see, as far as fitment, so these outer fenders, attached to the side of the car, the side stops here, and then the trunk area comes up to the side on the back. But you can see the mismatch, right? So it's exactly where it's supposed to be here, and more or less here. But if I moved that down, then it didn't match the contour properly. But you can see there's a step on this side too. This one's a little more, obviously, but both of them have that step. And then on the inside, so this rear seat cushion is in, and then the seat back goes in and will get glued in there. And then, filler will need to, try to get glue in there as best as I can to fill it, but it's not a perfect fit. So we're going to have to do some work there. And then even with that seat portion in, you can see down here along the edge on the inside there's a gap, even though on the bottom there really is no gap. So I've got that to deal with here, and then also the side of the interior doesn't come up against this part of the wheel well that's also part of the interior. So I've got some pieces of styrene that I've been putting into the gap and then tracing it with a pencil from the inside, and then also from the back side, and then cutting it accordingly, because it's just a very narrow piece that fits that gap. But so on this side, I've already got one piece in there that I did last night, but you can see there's still quite a big gap there to fill, and it's the same on both sides. So yeah, fitment is not the biggest thing on these. Our fan for the engine, so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to remake this. I don't like the thickness of it. I started to sand one of the blades thinner and get that proper shape, but they're so thick, so you can see, well, I think maybe you can see, so the outward facing edge has the angle to it, so it would rotate. If you're sitting behind it, it would rotate clockwise, right? So that front edge has that angle, but the rear facing portion of it is just flat. There is no shape. So I started to sand one, and it's so thick. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the shape of these fan blades onto some styrene and then cut out individual ones and then glue them back onto a center hub, and we'll put those on the engine instead. The engine I have in primer. All right, it's not bad. I can do a little more detail work to this. I have some photos online so that I can make it a little more accurate. I might even cut this portion of it off and remake that. I'm pretty sure that's the air cleaner. So the engine, this is the front actually. So the fan would actually go on right here, right? And I'm not sure, there's a hole there, but there is no pin on the back of the fan. And then the radiator goes in front. There's a pin on the bottom of the radiator that goes in front of it like that. So the fan would be in between those. Yeah. But even on this radiator, you can see we've got some big sink marks, right? And that's been a big problem on the whole car is huge sink marks. In fact, not as obvious on those, but I think on this one, yeah. So these are your front fenders, right? And the holes are where your exhaust from the engine go. And near the rear edge on the outside, the visible side, there are sink marks because the way these went together, in the one half there's a channel and in the other half there's like a tab. So it's a slot and a tab. Well, the side with the, I want to say that's the slot side, has the sink in it. So, and obviously I've shot some white primer on all of this at this point, but clearly I've got to do a lot more work to them. So, you know, I've got seams that need to be sanded and filled. Did most of the gluing is on the inside so that I can sand down to that edge and then make sure we're filled in on any gaps there. But that's where it stands at this point. Like I said, a lot of work to do. Fitment on this thing is not very well. But yeah. So you can see it's going to take some work to make it look presentable. But, you know, it's part of the challenge sometimes. So once the USAC build is complete and shown, we'll be working on this, but I'm also going to start working on the F4 Phaeton that I've had for over 20 years now. 20 and a half years roughly. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. Peace and love.